Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with Martin Turner, the CEO of Retail Solutions, a full-service real estate firm specializing in the leasing and sale of commercial real estate. Welcome to the show, Martin.
Good morning.
Martin, you grew your company's revenue from $3.7 million in 2014 to $8.4 million in 2017, a 127% increase. And in 2018, you hit around 8.5 million. Before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Absolutely. And I will actually lead by saying that I am the CEO of the company, and I took over in 2016, early to mid 2016 as the CEO. I formerly ran the Houston office and Houston division of the company, and was asked to take over as CEO in 2016. So a lot of this growth is not just mine as the leader, and so I figured I'd make that clarification right off the bat.
All right.
But as far as who we are a commercial real estate brokerage firm. And I think your description was appropriate in the beginning. The one thing I would say is that we're not necessarily a full service commercial real estate firm in the sense that we primarily provide brokerage services. So, and what that means is that we lease and sell commercial properties in the areas that we operate, and actually nationally and internationally as well. And so we've been pretty laser focused on being just a brokerage firm since our inception. The company's about 10 years old, and currently we list about 800 properties, probably 600 of which are retail properties. And that's more retail listings than any other firm in our category in the areas that we operate. And we are primarily retail focused, although we have seen growth in other disciplines as well. We have an office division that's doing very well, and we sell a lot of land as well.
All right. And for the growth that you had over the past few years, right, 3.7 million in 2014 all the way to 8.5 million in 2018, what were the three biggest drivers behind that growth?
So the biggest growth over that time is, I would say we started off as a primarily landlord representation platform. And so to explain for somebody who doesn't know our business, in brokerage, you're generally either representing the landlord, the owner of a property, or the tenant, or the buyer of a property. And so you're generally on one side or the other, whether it's leasing or sales. And a lot of the companies in our space have sort of a specialty niche where they're, primarily landlord heavy, or they're primarily tenant rep heavy. And the founder of our company, David Simmons, is one of the most prolific landlord rep brokers in the state of Texas. And he started out, and I would say 90 to 95% of our work for the first couple of years in business was on the landlord side of things. And so we, while it wasn't the most profitable way to grow the business, it did create a very strong brand in the marketplace. People saw our signs everywhere, and the name became, well known in the industry in a short period of time. And so as new folks were hired, brought on in the various markets in which we operate, some of those folks were more tenant rep heavy, and they really spearheaded a lot of growth on the tenant side, where today our tenant rep platform is as strong as our landlord rep platform, and the revenue is much more split between those two. In fact, tenant rep represents a little bit more of our revenue.
All right. Okay.
And then the other growth sources have been geographic expansion. We have gone from our original office in Austin, and we have now offices in 6 cities in Texas: Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, South Texas, McAllen, El Paso, and then we also have added Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, and Albuquerque, New Mexico in recent years.
All right. So just to recap, the 3 drivers is 1, you built up your brand at the very beginning, so you got known in the marketplace on the landlord representation side. And then the second driver was that you grew the tenant rep side of your business. That's been a good source of growth for you. And then the third one is the geographic expansion from just 1 office in Austin to now, I guess 7 offices in total in Texas.
6 offices in Texas and then 2 offices elsewhere. So we have an office in Albuquerque and an office in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Right. So when you opened those offices in Albuquerque and Lafayette, were those via acquisitions, or is this a good market, or you had a lot of clients out there and you said, oh, we need to put someone out there?
Yeah, so they were actually different stories, both of which have worked out quite well. Our Louisiana market leader was actually an organic move. She was the COO, and a lot of our prior growth is thanks to her as well. She came on and was the first sort of operations leader for the company. At a time where we were growing quite explosively and needed a lot of operations help. She came on and was the operations leader, but her past was in brokerage, and she had done specifically a lot of tenant rep work. And so when she decided she wanted to move back home, Lafayette is her home, and so she moved back to Louisiana a few years back. She was an ideal partner to place there, and so she has opened that office, and they have focused on both work inside of Louisiana, but that office in particular has done a ton of work outside the Louisiana borders on the tenant rep side, where they've handled national tenant rep relationships and represented retailers expanding across the country.
Oh, got it. And how about, yep.
On New Mexico, really different story there. We had opened an El Paso office in probably 2.5 years ago, and the leader of our El Paso office had a client who happened to be a prominent broker in Albuquerque, one of Albuquerque's best brokers, and introduced me to them, and we got to talking, and this gentleman, Rob Powell, and a group of folks that he was working with on a team, decided that they were probably going to make a shift and look elsewhere, and so we started courting them as potential partners in that market, and it seemed to be a really good fit. They were a very collaborative team. Our company is well known for being very collaborative in the way we do business, and it just felt like a perfect fit. So it was the first time we had taken a pre-existing team in a market, and put together a deal to have them come on board. And I would say it's gone extremely well. They're now one of Albuquerque's top commercial firms there, and are kicking some butt for us in the New Mexico market.
All right. Now, who are your end clients? Because at first I was thinking, on the landlord side, it's the entity that owns the commercial real estate. But then you mentioned just now that this was a broker who was your client.
Yeah. So actually, well, that's that's actually a fairly common thing that, brokers at some point in their career, they decide to be owners as well. And so, he owned some property that was in El Paso, and he had Chris, who's our El Paso leader, working on that property for him. And so his day job, what he does day in and day out, is Rob is a broker, and so he happens to own some commercial real estate as well. And so I wouldn't say it's common to have a broker who is also a client, but there are a number of instances of that across our portfolio where we actually have a broker who owns a property that we represent.
Right, got it. And in terms of branding, you mentioned before how the founder grew the business quite fast on the landlord rep side, and then you became well known in the marketplace. How important is branding when it comes to winning new business?
Oh, it's very important. It can make or break you a lot of times. It's a small community. There's a small set of owners that own a good chunk of the big assets in the retail world, and there are only so many retailers out there that are expanding, and so they know the big players in the industry, and you can count them on two hands. So typically, if you're outside of that group, it's very tough to win business, and so no, branding is very important.
Right. So does that imply that your business growth is coming pretty much from your existing customer base, or is there still some new opportunities with new clients?
No, I would say actually that's not the case. Obviously, we do get a lot of business from our existing clientele, but our growth has come from reaching out to new prospective clients. And we talked about tenant rep being a big source of growth for us. One of the ways that we were able to break into that side of the business and really, attack it and take on a lot of the big competitors in that space is we focused quite a bit on our research and analytics division, where we have a really smart, really competent team of three that we put in place, and all they do is study demographics, psychographics, and all sorts of data that's critical for expanding retailers, and they put together just incredible research packages for our expanding clients. And we are able to offer this to our clients, many of which say, it's the best data they've ever seen, and just find it to be an invaluable source for them. And so that's given us an ability to build a brand for ourselves in that space and acquire a lot of clients that, without that, we would have never been able to get our foot in the door.
Right. Now, do these guys pretty much already know of retail solutions to start, or are you still a fresh face?
So we're kind of in that in-between stage where, if they're established and they've been around in the Texas market for a long time, then the answer would be yes. It'd be pretty hard to be in the industry and doing retail real estate and not know who we are at this point in time if they're doing business in our market. But there are always new entrants to our market. So, we pick up quite a few clients that come from other regions and are very interested in expanding into the, Texas region. And so they are meeting a lot of the firms for the first time, with the exception of a few of the national brands. And so, I guess the answer would be on that yes and no.
Right, got it. And how long does it take to, from initial contact to inking a deal? What's your sales cycle?
It's long. It's very long. So, and we look at that all the time, because we are, first we have to secure an account. So that can, be a very long process. And I wouldn't be able to define how long that is because it varies widely. I mean, sometimes we chase accounts for many years. Sometimes it's as quick as a couple of months, but typically we don't win an account without a couple months courtship. And then once we start working with that client, if it's an expanding retailer or whatnot, we have to go out and find suitable sites for them. That can also take many months. And then, they do their own due diligence on the site. And then, they have to go and build out their space and, make it suitable for them. So by the time all of our contingencies on a deal are met, it can take, anywhere from 6 months to many years. I've had deals that I've waited 4 or 5 years to get paid on.
Right. It's quite a long time.
Well, that's, obviously atypical and much longer than the norm, but yeah, that is part of the game. So, we always look at two metrics. We look at, what we've booked, the deals that have been signed, and how much we've earned from those. And then, obviously how much cash is coming in the door. And while the deals booked may be a better barometer of how we're doing, in actuality, the two may tell different stories at different times.
Right. I imagine it must make it challenging for planning as well.
Yeah, it is one of the challenges we have, and so sales is nice in that respect. We've higher and higher percentage of our revenue has come from sales over the years, and that has helped smooth that, because when a sale closes, it closes. We are paid at the time of closing, and so the correlation between the deal being booked and revenue being or the cash being seen in our account is 100%. It's if it happens that quarter, we get paid that quarter. Whereas leasing, it's almost never the case. We wait sometimes, like I said, sometimes years, but we get paid in installments, half once the lease is signed, but we invoice for it, and then however long it takes to collect, and then again when the tenant opens for business. And so if they have extensive construction, it could be a very long time. So right. Yes, from a planning perspective, it is one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, and I imagine it must hamper your growth sometimes as well, or you have to find some funding, right? I mean, you have a big client that wants to do a huge new shopping center complex, for example, right? So it's going to take a while to build out everything and get tenants and so on. That's, if you're looking at that, you're going to be thinking, okay, we're going to help them with this, but it's going to take them 5 years to get it done, right? So how are we going to pay the bills?
Yeah, we spend a lot of money on the front side, and spend a lot of time on the front side, and we rarely see that payoff until a year, 2 years, 3 years, and at the end of the day, we're in the business of keeping our clients and expanding those relationships, and really the value is in volume of deals we're doing with these folks. So we don't make enough off of any one deal to make it worthwhile. We're making the investment on the front side so that we can realize returns for many years to come from these clients. And so, but that obviously requires us performing and doing our job, which, so far we've been good at.
Right. Now, in 2017, you're at 8.4. 2018, you hit around 8.5. So it was a flat year revenue-wise. What happened there? Was it just a tough market?
No, actually, I wouldn't say that was market-driven at all. So it was somewhat intentional in the sense that while we didn't say we want a flat year this year. We definitely made an intentional decision to stop focusing on revenue growth and focus on profitability. So, and not only profitability, but also our average broker production volume. Make sure that the brokers at the end of the day are what drives our business. They're independent contractors. And, we want to make sure that they're making a really good living doing this and, have the resources and whatnot at their disposal. And we are a classic case of a company that grew extremely fast and, because we were really good at what we do, but we grew to a point where we could no longer handle the growth. And so just our processes weren't there. Our data was disorganized. And so we really put an emphasis last year on, and, for the past couple of years on making our platform more efficient. So while we grew very modestly last year on the revenue side, we booked a lot more work, which means the revenue in the future is much better. And we're seeing that this year. We're way up this year. I think year to date this year, we booked 50% more work than we had year to date at the same point last year. So we're really cranking right now. Our average broker production volume is up about 50% year over year. And so we've just seen all of the metrics that really matter to us are really good. And so last year, we actually, it was the first time we ever shrunk our brokerage force. So we had a number of brokers that just weren't making it in this career, and we hadn't let them go or let them go yet. And so it was last year was kind of a year where we really focused on the brokers that wanted to do this, do it well, be the best in the business at their practice. And I feel like the quality of our brokerage team is infinitely better. They're making 50% more money on average this year than last year. And so that's a pretty significant hop. Right.
So I guess the number that you report, right, your revenue figures, right? Of course, you only recognize it, I imagine, not all up front when you win a deal, but, percentage of completion, or you time it to, when you actually receive payments. So the real metric we should be looking at perhaps might be looking at your backlog of work that's in the pipeline. Would that be more accurate measure?
Yeah. So I think absolutely. I think the predictor of our future revenue, first of all, I think the most accurate predictor would be how much have we accrued that we haven't collected. That's probably the safest bet to predict the future. And, we call it our open balances. And our open balances are $1 million higher than they were at this time last year. So we have collected, or we have booked, we have accrued so much more work. So we're very optimistic on that front. And then of course pipeline. And so we've made big strides on that front as well. We introduced a CRM that has been adopted by our brokerage force, And it's really helped the brokers themselves be able to track their pipeline much more, but also, being able to, sort of look at it in the aggregate and say, okay, we have this many deals that are out at contract stage and this many deals that are, earlier in the pipeline, and these accounts should really start paying off. So it's given us much better transparency across the platform, and at our current size, we really needed that. The data element was really lacking a couple of years ago, and so we just, it was all gut.
Right, got it. So your sales cycle can be quite long, multi years in some cases. How does your team keep in touch with the prospective client? Because they're checking out other people as well, right? When they're looking for people to potentially do work with them. So how does your team keep in touch with them?
Yeah, so that is the core of what we do. We're a service-based business. And so if we're not constantly in contact with our clients, we're not doing our job right. And so, the best brokers are the brokers that are constantly following up with their clients, even when, and I would say especially when things aren't, really cracking. Of course, we're all eager to talk about a deal or a new exciting opportunity. But where brokers go wrong is when they're struggling or when things are not happening as quickly as anticipated or as quickly as a client would want. That's particularly the time that you want to reach out and let them know all the things that you are doing. Because, while you might be working your butt off day in and day out and doing all the right things and planting the seeds for the future, the client may think you're not doing anything if they're not hearing from you.
Yeah.
And so, especially in a long sales cycle, and of course, our competitors are always talking to our clients on other stuff. And so we just have to be very proactive about making sure that we're getting credit for the things that we're doing. And also, just staying, keeping the relationship alive and listening to what they want. They may have changed their strategy and not told us. And if we're not reaching out to them, we wouldn't know that. And so maybe they're willing to look for a slightly different product type now. And so sometimes, just reaching out to somebody, you trip across a new opportunity you didn't know was there. So, staying in touch with the clients is kind of the essence of what we do.
Right. How about with prospective clients? How do you keep in touch with those guys when you don't really have projects to talk about?
Yeah, so one of the key reasons that David Simmons, the founder of the company, who's kind of the heart and soul of the Retail Solutions brand, he's very high energy guy. He's all sales and business development and loves that side of it, and despises the operations side of it, and so. One of the main reasons for wanting a CEO a few years ago was so that he could focus his efforts and energies much more on the business development side, and that has certainly played out. And so he is on the road quite a bit, going to various conventions around the country, and meeting with emerging retailers, going to their offices and doing pitches. And really spending a lot of time out, building relationships, building the brand. And then, of course, our independent brokers are doing the same thing, and they're out there constantly reaching out to new companies. And if we get wind that a retailer might be coming to our market, or if we just feel like they would be a brand that would be good in our market, we're reaching out to them and asking them if they're coming. We also represent a lot of retailers outside of our market. So just in the last 2 weeks, we've done a deal in Mexico. We've done a deal in Canada. In addition to a whole bunch of deals outside of the states that we operate on. So while we only list properties in the 3 states that we have offices in, we can represent expanding retailers anywhere and everywhere, and we partner with brokers in those various markets. And so the retailers love it because they have a single point of contact. We really know what they need. We're able to operate as sort of their internal real estate department for, emerging brands that don't have that, real estate department quite set up yet. And then, we're able to sort of act as a co-partner with the boots on the ground, whoever the best broker in that market is that we deem to handle that account. And so we've established a lot of relationships with brokers in markets around the country. And, I think we've done deals in 43 states over the last 12 months.
All right, 7 more to go, and you have everything covered.
That would be the hope. Last year, I think it was like 42 or 43. So this year, that would be great if we could get all 50, and then a few other countries as well. And so I know our research and analytics team is working on some projects for folks in the Middle East as well, and doing some research in Dubai and other Middle Eastern countries. So it's exciting.
Yeah, Dubai is a retail mecca in that part of the world.
Yeah.
On the high end side as well. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So for 2019, what are the exciting opportunities that you have been focusing on so far, and what are you planning on doing the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I would say by continuing the trend that we have been seeing and really focusing internally on the brokers and continuing to grow their pipelines and see the growth there. We're thrilled that we've seen such a huge uptick in broker production year over year. We want that trend to continue, and that's always going to be kind of the centerpiece of our focus. But we also do see huge opportunities to grow our platform at large. And so bringing on more folks that are focused on investment sales is a big priority of ours. We are also talking with groups that focus more on property management and potentially bringing on a property management division to, which would be very synergistic with our leasing platform. And we're looking at new markets. We're talking to, a group in Arizona. We have our eye on California, talking to someone in Florida, and Colorado. So we're, looking all over for situations like the Albuquerque team where, we can bring on a pre-existing established team to join the platform. And so we see that as a big area of growth. And then, continuing to improve our internal systems, our data collection, and collaboration. The bigger we get, the more data we can collect, and just become a much more smart and efficient run organization.
Right. 3 final questions for you, Martin.
Yeah.
If you had a billboard along the freeway for retail solutions, what would it say? And keep in mind that people drive by a billboard, especially here in Texas when you're out on the freeways outside the city. They're going to zip by it in 6 seconds or less.
Okay. I would say retail solutions, the most collaborative and aggressive commercial real estate company in the business.
Most collaborative and aggressive. How does that tie together? You don't hear those 2 phrases, 2 words too often.
So collaborative really, so we put out an internal survey, and so we're always marketing, both to potential clients as well as, brokers to join the team and to become a part of the retail solutions. And so, one of the sort of core pieces of Retail Solutions that distinguishes us is that we have an extremely collaborative platform. We share information and we share deals much more often and with much greater ease than other companies. Part of it is just how we're established and how we have a system set up to share deals. But part of it is also just who we hire. We don't we don't hire assholes. We don't hire brokers who are paranoid about other brokers coming in and stealing their deals. And those brokers typically don't last if they are in the platform. And so what we have as the core of our team, it's just folks that want to make a lot of deals, that realize the advantages and look at the possibilities of sharing. And I'll give you a couple of examples of where they tie together the aggressive and the collaborative. So we have a new broker in the Houston market. He comes on to the team and immediately starts calling other brokers in other offices and asks them, hey, what product of yours can I market, and blah 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 blah. And he starts these conversations, and immediately he starts teeing up 30,000, 50,000 square foot LOIs because he's able to call on these centers in McAllen. He did a deal in, he's done 2 deals in McAllen. He's done a deal in Midland, Texas. He's worked on deals in El Paso. He's done a deal up in Dallas. And so his portfolio, ordinarily this new broker would be out there looking for, just the ability to just work on any little small deal out there. Well, this guy's been able to come on and immediately have the potential to, work on large deals right off the bat just by being aggressive, and it has paid off for him. I mean, he's having a very strong first year in the business, has done a lot of deals already, and what it's led to for him is being able to pick up some better and better accounts because he has the experience of working on deals. And so that collaborative platform has enabled him to be very aggressive and go out there and make things happen. Whereas, ordinarily he would just have to be starting from scratch and not really have anything to work on.
Right. Got it. 2 last questions for you. Who are your ideal clients, and what's the best way for them to contact your team?
Yeah. So any retailer that is expanding in the United States is our ideal client. So we have a very advanced research and analytics department that can help expanding retailers drill down on their customer, where they need to be, where they need to locate. They can split up markets for different franchisees, and we have a lot of experience doing that. So, any expanding retailer or restaurant is a target for us. Any owner of commercial real estate across the country, we want to be leasing and selling their property. And so, we work with big and small alike. We have clients such as Simon Property Group, HEB, Washington Prime, which are all, very prominent companies in our space. And we lease for, the first-time owner that, just acquired a building and needs to lease out a 1,200 square foot vacancy. And we find that by spanning the spectrum, we have our hand on the pulse of the entire market, and we really understand who to reach out to at what circumstance. So, an example of where that really matters is where we might lease a Class A shopping center for a group like Washington Prime, but they may have a very tough to lease space in the elbow of the shopping center, and that most brokerages that are only focused on Class A property wouldn't even know who to call on, wouldn't even be able to touch something like that. Whereas we can jump in and we have a huge database. I think we have 80,000 different folks that we've talked to in the business in our database. We do a really good job of cataloging them. And so, we're able to make those calls and bring a lot of value. Sometimes the sexiest spaces, those are the easy ones to lease.
Right.
But where we sometimes prove our value to clients is in really getting the stuff that's a little tougher to leased up, and then of course we get to lease the nice stuff as well. Right.
And what's the best way for these retail operators to get in touch with you guys?
Through they can visit our website, retailsolutionsre.com. They can reach out to, I would recommend if they're an expanding retailer or just owner general inquiries, I would recommend reaching out to either myself or David Simmons. We have easy emails, David at retailsolutionsre.com and Martin at retailsolutionsre.com. And, my phone number is 512-293-3416 if they'd like to call.
All right. Yeah, it's always good to be easily available.
Yeah.
Martin, it's been awesome having you on my show today. Really enjoyed hearing how you grew your company so fast.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Martin Turner, the CEO of Retail Solutions, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.